Ben Shapiro of the Ben Shapiro Show had made some comments about the Muslim ban, indicating that it's not a Muslim ban. So let's listen to a clip of his, and then we'll come back and break it all down.
So the Secretary of Homeland Security, as well as Secretary of State and the DNI, Director of National Intelligence, are tasked under the order with determining the standard necessary for visa entry within 30 days. They're going to rewrite the standard. All entry into the United States is suspended as immigrants and non-immigrants of such persons for 90 days from the date of such order. So these are the countries. This is where everybody's saying you're not able to get in if you're from Iraq, Iran, Syria, Libya, and a couple of other countries. Not Afghanistan, not Saudi Arabia, not Pakistan. That's one of the flaws in this, and we'll get to that in a second. The order also states that there may be more countries that are added to this ban list. So again, it's 7 countries they're talking about. It's Iran, Iraq, Syria, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, Yemen. Those are the 7 that they are talking about. The Secretary of State and Homeland Security are able to waive the executive order for individuals. So if they determine that there's an interpreter who wants to get in from Iraq, they can waive the executive order. Okay, refugees are blocked for 120 days. All refugees are blocked for 120 days while we come up with new standards. Syrian refugees are banned indefinitely until Trump says okay. So they're given a special standard. Priority is given to victims of religious-based persecution. So what it says is that the Secretary of State is directed to make changes to prioritize refugee claims made by individuals on the basis of religious-based persecution, provided the religion of the individual is a minority religion in the individual's country of nationality. So the idea here, presumably, is that Christians living in Syria will be given higher priority. They'll still be able to get in. Muslims who are refugees from Syria are going to have a harder time. Now, that isn't actually a major shift from current refugee law. Current refugee law defines a refugee as any person who is outside the country of such person's nationality and who is unable to return to the country because of persecution or well-founded fear of persecution on account of religion. So that obviously encompasses Christians. The fact is that the Obama administration really cracked down on Christian immigration from Syria, which was truly an awful, awful thing. They took in, I think, single-digit numbers of Syrian refugees who were Christian in the last year, but they took in tens of thousands of Syrian refugees who were not. That's ridiculous. The order limits the number of refugees total in 2017 to 50,000. People have been, oh, wow, that's just awful. Okay, except that was the normal standard like 3 years ago. It was only upped in the last couple of years. And then you get into the screw-up. So all of this is basically okay. Right? It's actually relatively moderate. This isn't a giant Muslim ban. There are 1.5 billion Muslims all around the world. They're not going to immediately be banned from the United States. The most populous Muslim countries are still allowed to send people to the United States. They're not banned. Again, this doesn't cover a lot of the countries it probably should cover, like Pakistan and Saudi Arabia and Egypt, right? It doesn't cover a lot of those places. All it is, it's a temporary moratorium. It's an outright ban, so it's not a Muslim ban.
All right, so let's give it a shot. So after listening to what Ben Shapiro says, I pretty much am going to have to say that he's dead wrong on all of that. Earlier in the clip, actually, and I'll include the link to the YouTube video in the description below, but he talked about that actually Christians were admitted in the single digits. But actually, that's not the case. The Refugee Processing Center that's actually responsible for keeping track of all of these numbers of refugees migrating from country to country actually states that during the last fiscal year, 2016, there were over 15,000 people that were actually admitted into the United States. So, Ben, I have to ask, where the fuck are you getting those numbers from exactly? Furthermore, he went on to say that this is not a Muslim ban, and in part actually because of the countries that are not actually on the list. He doesn't call them Muslim ban. He uses the fancy words moratorium. Okay, so here's the thing. Earlier in the clip also, he went on to say that this is a direct result of the events of 9/11. But actually, if you look back at the events of 9/11 and you realize some of the people, where some of those people came from, a majority of them actually came from Saudi Arabia. And guess who's not on the list? Saudi Arabia. Weird, isn't it? So, this is what a number of different media outlets, to some of their credit, actually went on to figure out that those countries that he actually doesn't have a ban on are countries that he has business interest in those companies, personal business interest. This is part of the reason why some of these most prolific critics went on to say that he needs to actually put his companies in a blind trust. This is unfortunate, but it seems like his personal business interests are conflicting with his policy decisions that is that is being orchestrated throughout the White House. So I would say that pretty much he's dead wrong on all of that. Trump is stating that he's doing this as a direct result of 9/11, but he's not actually targeting the countries that a majority of those people actually came from was actually Saudi Arabia. But he's going around, and by him I mean Ben is talking about it's not a Muslim ban, but actually this executive order actually requires a religious test, and it gives leeway to minority religions. Minority religions being, since they're from Muslim countries, Christians, giving leeway to Christians to be able to come through. So, regardless of whatever fluffy words that you want to use, you fucking want to call it, oh, is it a temporary moratorium? Look, dude, okay, if he's not literally processing anybody at this moment, then it's a ban. It doesn't matter whether or not it's 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 120 days, however you want to frame it. It's an outright ban. And for some people who are even going as far as to compare it to Obama's ban, okay, those are not even close to being the same. The drastic difference between Obama's so-called ban versus Trump's actual ban is that Obama actually didn't ban anybody. Obama actually was reevaluating the processes because they were exploited. So what happened was is that the frequency to which people were actually being admitted slowed. There was a significant bottleneck in the review process where he was reprocessing some of the people who were already admitted. So in that time span to which they are trying to compare between Obama's and Trump's, Obama was actually processing people. Trump actually is not. It may actually seem to some people that the frequency to which people were being admitted it actually looked like a ban, but it actually wasn't, and it's nowhere close. So for some of these people who are using this line of argument against Obama, I have my grievances against Obama, but in this one particular instance, he was right, and unfortunately, or not even unfortunately, a bit of a slap in the face to some of the Republicans or the right wingers. You guys are dead fucking wrong.